Welcome back. I am Serena, and this is PR with Serena, and this is a special stream. Why is it a special stream? Well, this entire episode has been planned, and it can go up on YouTube perfectly in a very amazingly edited way. But I'm just sitting on all of this content and I wanted to share this with you in a tutorial way, in a real time, as if it's a webinar way. So if you're here to find out why I think and why I'm saying public relations is so important and vital to your business and your brand, then make yourself a coffee, a tea, whatever it is, and just get your notepad and pen. What I will do is I will timestamp this because it will be a bit more conversational. So welcome. Let's take a little sip. Okay, so let's repeat the objective. The objective of this video is for me to convince you why public relations, PR, comms is so important for you and your brand and your business. Now, it's really hot here, by the way. Oh, okay. It's just really hot weather at the moment. But okay, moving on. This is why I needed the edits. So, firstly, what is it? What is public relations? I've been doing it for 20 years, more than 20 years, and I'm a chartered practitioner. And as part of my strategic consulting, I also bring a systems thinking approach. That's my work and study as a systems thinking practitioner as well. So, it's all about zooming out. And I think what public relations does, what comms does, is it does this really good thing of reading between the lines. And that's why it's used so much in politics, because it's able to see things that not everyone can see immediately at first glance. So, as a practitioner, what you're doing is you're able to look at the situation, look at what audience sentiment is, look at what the needs are, what the pain points are, what are people more reactive to, responsive to, and then you can begin to formulate comms around that, ethically or not so ethically, but that is essentially the skill set of a public relations comms person. Now, when I'm talking about PR, I'm not talking about these wonderful, fluffy PR packages that influencers get. That is part of the PR mix. But public relations and comms, at the heart of it, it is about influencing people. It is. And that's why I have some quotes for you. So let's deal with this very first part of the video. And that is, what is PR and why it's important for you. So Edward L. Bernays, whose book Propaganda I have done some readings from for this channel as well as my other channel, which is about media literacy in politics, was a nephew of Freud, and in modern times has been considered to be problematic. But let's put aside all of that baggage for now. Edward L. Bernays wrote Propaganda, I believe, in the 1930s and wrote other material since then, and effectively told us that the way the masses are manipulated is through this thing called public relations or propaganda. He's also considered the founder of public relations. And although we want to be ethical, we want to use public relations for good reasons, we are aware, we must accept that you have bad actors who will use it to further a not so, let's say, beneficial, positive objective. Edward Bernays said propaganda becomes vicious and reprehensive only when its authors consciously and deliberately disseminate what they want to be lies, or when they aim at effects which known to be prejudice to the common good. So there you go. It's just kind of sum up how it can be used for nefarious reasons. But here's also a direct quote from Edward Bernays, and that is, the three main elements of public relations are practically as old as society: informing people, persuading people, or integrating people with people. Of course, the means and methods of accomplishing these ends have changed as society has changed. And, then we can essentially look at the ways that entities have been able to influence people over the decades. First, print media used to be so relied upon. People were so dependent upon print media. And now you have influencers who, if they can endorse you within 7 seconds on a Snapchat or TikTok, then there you have it. You have some successful PR. So the reason why your brand and your business needs it is, yes, you might be addressing some of this within your marketing, within your sales. But what are you doing in order to not only monitor the impact of all of that, but understanding the state that your audience is in the sense of their sentiment and how they feel about you? So, what is it that you're doing as part of your everyday that allows you to keep an eye on what your audience is thinking and feeling about you? Now, that's why social media provides, and perhaps your website or whatever it is that you use, sort of internal metrics and analytics that you can use in order to inform yourself as to how things are going, really. But that's probably only going to tell you whether an email's been opened or whether a post did well than compared to another. What is it that you can sort of do in order to really understand how they're thinking and feeling? And that's where this sort of reputational management sphere of public relations comes in, which is my real interest. I've done it as part of my work, sprinkled into my work for 20 years in different industries. And never solely have I only focused on reputation management. And the reason why it's my focus now is because if my target client is a brand, a business, a creator, an entrepreneur who doesn't have a big company or a outfit or a team, then how are they going about managing their reputation? How are they going about protecting their reputation and ensuring that it is looked at, it's not neglected in any way? Because a big part of reputation management is anticipation. So coming back to what I was saying, how do you know how your audience is thinking and feeling about you? That will actually then inform your anticipation, your ability to address risks and identify any issues or trends before they occur. Sip, sip. That was a gulp, gulp. It wasn't a sip, sip. So, so this is why PR and comms is so powerful, and you will know of so many entities who have PR and comms in place. They rely on them heavily because they are able to spend time and attention on the things that perhaps you can't, such as how are you doing with sort of planning your objectives, your comms, your PR objectives, or whatever it is that you are doing with a campaign, whether it's for awareness or whether to get clicks on something or support or endorsement from something or even votes. So your PR and comms will keep an eye on that, and they'll make sure that sort of that objective setting is done in a smart way so that you can measure it, so that it is achievable, so that you can then evaluate at the end to see, actually not just evaluate at the end, but evaluate in an ongoing way, consistent way, because you have to iterate on that activity. You see, PR and comms, much like your reputation management, is a very much active thing. It's alive, it's happening every day, it's happening all the time. So you always have to have a look at your plan and just sort of tweak it, see where you're going. So you'll have some kind of sentiment tracking in place. You could have something like an audience tracking or sentiment tracking software in place, and there's many things out there. One of them, I think, is Decision. There are so many, Gorkana. There are so many ways that you can track sentiment, things that are said about you and your brand. And if you don't have software and something fancy and bougie like that, Well, you can do this yourself, and there's different ways that you can do this. I've outlined some of this in my free ebook, which is called Don't Get Cancelled. It's all about reputation management. It's volume 1 of my Art and Science of Reputation Management series. So you can check that out. That's available to download. So let's come back. So we're talking about the need for PR. Why is it so important? I've kind of explained that to you. It's a discipline that doesn't really have necessarily a dedicated specialist in the team of one, unless you're like me and PR is your thing. And then reputation being a really important thing. Like, why? Why reputation? Like, how do we manage it? Why is it so crucial to your brand? Because what someone says today can immediately affect you and your brand within seconds, within minutes, within days. The trajectory of your reputation can go from positive to negative, or it can at least call you and your integrity into question. So then you have to address that. How do you address that? Well, that will help me go into the next bit, which might be the concluding bit, actually. And there is much more that I want to say, and I will come back to say it. And I'll probably edit this and put it out as a separate video. But you've got to have your mapping of your stakeholders done. Now, what is this? Oh, it's a corporate word. Stakeholders is every single person in your audience or within your team, in your field that's connected to you, that has some kind of input or you have some output to them, connected to you in that sense. So it could be your audience, it could be your investors, it could be any business partners, collaborators that you have, people who let's just say, people that matter to you and your brand, that if your rep took a hit, it would affect what they thought of you. Those are your stakeholders. Okay. So you've got to have a map of your stakeholders, because if you don't, then you don't know how people are thinking and feeling about you. Now, it's impossible to know all the time what everyone is thinking and feeling about you. This is ridiculous. But what you've got to do is still make a deliberate and intentional effort in order to put something down on paper and revisit it, rather than just passively going along. Because when we passively go along with anything, we know that there will be blind spots. We know if we passively do anything, then we could miss something. It's so easy to miss something when you are passive. So you've got to be much more deliberate and intentional. It's really important that you take a little bit of time to map things out. So I've covered a few things. I have so many notes on this, but I'm just wanting to give you like the value straight away. I think the biggest thing that I want to share with you over here in this stream about public relations, about why it's so important to you and your brand, why you should spend some time yourself on this, how you could almost cultivate some PR skills yourself when you're managing your business and your brand. What you can do in order to do that, what is achievable in order to do that, is to, in the very first instance, make sure that whatever you're doing in order to reach your audience is in some kind of a PR strategy, in some kind of a PR plan. I say some kind is because it could be within an official document. We use decks. You could use a slide deck for it, or you could use a one-pager, and make your objectives SMART. Is it specific? Is it measurable, achievable, time-bound? What are the results? Can you, is it relevant? Sorry, is it relevant? And then time bound, and then make sure that you can evaluate. That's what a SMART objective is. That's in the very first instance, something that you can do. Secondly, you are capturing insight and your audience sentiment in a passive way as you go along. And that's okay. I get it. You're a busy entrepreneur. I understand. I'm of the same ilk as you. But you've got to have something on paper. If you don't have someone like me doing this for you, you've got to have something on paper that basically, even if it's a spray diagram, a spider diagram, that has you, your brand at the center, and then all your stakeholders. So your audience, segment your audience, which channels your customers as well. So it's not just your social media audience, your customers as well, then your different kinds of customers. Then who are the different kinds of people that you have to deal with? Are there any influencers or thought leaders or advisors, counselors, coaches, collaborators, investors, partners who need to know what you're doing because your reputation matters to them as well? Like they actually have a stake in you in some form, in some description, or you always will want something from them. There's something transactional there, so you've got to make sure they're knowledgeable, because you might change or pivot as a brand. And I've made this mistake, and sometimes I'm not the best. I need a PR for me as a PR, but it's really hard to do this on your own. That's why it's so useful to have somebody do this for you, because they have that zoomed out position. They have that zoomed out perspective where they're kind of like taking a step back and able to see what's going on for this brand. What are the different, let's say, pain points of their audience that might have evolved and changed over time? That's one thing. The other thing is, what are the risks? Can we identify the risks in advance? There's something going on socio-politically, and how is that going to affect your brand and your output and what you offer? So that's also something that you probably need to have a look at, doing a risk assessment. Again, not passively, but deliberately, being quite intentional about it, because at least then it's on a post-it and it's somewhere there on your desk. It's lodged in your mind, because then you know when you're about to say that thing, launch that thing, connect with somebody, you have that risk already in you know what the top three are. You know what the top three are. So then you can be much more mindful about how you talk, the language that you use, the terminology that you use in your marketing and your sales. You're much more aware. And like that awareness is priceless, because then you can be a step ahead. You can be a step ahead. I will come back with more. There are many ways that you can connect with me. The links are provided, and I'm going through a launch period myself, even though I feel like masses of experience. This, channel is very much new for me. And so my links and my offerings are evolving day to day, and I'm having to update them all the time. So currently there's an ebook available, but I believe if I go with Kajabi, that's going to be available. I believe I've also signed up to Connect, so you can contact me there. There's so many links that will be provided and have to be updated by going into my YouTube studio and going into the descriptions of all the videos and just pasting all the new links. But whenever you're watching this, just remember, even just having awareness is going to make a very big difference for you. Just being a bit more intentional and deliberate rather than passive and just going along with things. Even if it's just 5 minutes a week, just take that time and try and please invest in a little bit of zoomed out thinking for your brand, for your reputation's sake. Download my ebook if you like. Get in touch with me. Please drop a comment in the comment section. Let me know where you're listening from and what your sort of current position is in terms of your brand and your business, and where you're at with your PR, if it's something that you've actually considered or used, and what your experience of that has been. And I have many other ways that you can experience my offering. I create content as well, so you can check those links out as well. But I really do appreciate your time. I will spend a bit more time to edit this into a video, because I know that we are all so challenged for time, and our attention is sort of needed everywhere. So the fact that you've given me your time and attention here, I really do appreciate it. Again, I'm Serena. Thank you so much. This is PR with Serena, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for following this stream. I'm going to close it out. There's a little bit of a delay, so if I'm just kind of staring like a deer in the headlights, and that's why I'll sip on my coffee while there's imaginary outro music. Thanks again.